All right, let's get started here. Morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the EASSI 1.0 case study webinar, brand new webinar for this year. We have two guests with us tonight or today. It's Juan from La Casa and Amy and Mike from Life Treatment Centers. So let's get started. So this is our agenda. We'll start with a quick welcome, go through the EASSI timeline, and then we'll get started with Juan from La Casa and Amy and Mike from Life Treatment Centers. We'll have Q&A and then next steps. And if everyone can have their mic on mute, except for the folks that will be speaking, greatly appreciate it so everyone can hear the speakers. So this is the EASSI roadmap for the new organizations that are participating this year. So last week we wrapped up the on-site energy assessments, and Donna is now collecting all the information from all the data she collected for all of your respective buildings, and is putting together a energy assessment report. And so on the week of April 10th is when we expect that those reports to be completed, and we'll send those out to you. And then the week of May 1st is when we'll review that assessment report with you. And so this gives you some time between early April and early May to review that report, share it with your board members, your facilities point people, and have some questions prepared and think about different projects that you might want to pursue. And then from there on out is really where after that meeting where we review that assessment report with you, where you'll look at collecting some quotes regarding specific projects you have in mind for the EASSI program. And then just as a reminder, the grant agreement is due in November, and this allows us time to process those grants and have those the grant dollars sent out within this calendar year. And the way I've set up this webinar too is I hope that this roadmap and the following slide gives you a sense of sort of the process of the whole EASSI program and what Juan and Amy and Mike will share regarding their experience with the EASSI program. And so this is also part of our EASSI timeline. This is a little bit more specific, and this is going into the post-assessment process. So once you receive that assessment report, you talk with your internal stakeholders about projects to pursue. You let us know about what projects you want to pursue, and then from there on, it's collecting the quotes, the reimbursement process, and then the post-project process as well. And where we can evaluate the impact of the program and show the impact of the EASSI program and what that means for your organization. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our presenters. So Juan and Amy and Mike, if you wanted to give a quick intro, and then we'll go into La Casa's slides.
Yeah, well, good morning, everyone. My name is Juan Constantino, the executive director here at La Casa de Amistad. La Casa is a youth and community center that's been located in South Bend for 50 years this year in October, and just really excited to be here with each and every one of you to share about our project and how it went, and hopefully provide some tips and answer any questions you all may have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Juan. And Amy and Mike, can you talk about Life Treatment Centers and what you do?
Yep, I'm Amy. I'm the Chief Financial Officer over here at Life Treatment Centers. We've also been around for over 50 years now. We're a substance use disorder that offers residential and outpatient services. And Mike is our Director of Operations. He can kind of introduce himself.
I'm Mike Teskey. I'm the Director of Operations here at Life Treatment Centers. I've been here about around 20 years, and basically I'm in charge of all the projects that are going on and make sure they're getting done. And the last one with the lighting went really well, and we're happy with that.
All right. Thank you, Juan, Amy, and Mike. Let's move on to La Casa de Amistad. Juan, take it away. Feel free to let me know when you would like me to advance the slides.
Sounds good. Thank you, Alex. And again, good morning, everyone. I'm looking forward to going over this presentation with you all. I'm going to provide some background history, pre-EASSI, during EASSI, post-EASSI. I don't think there's a post. We're still in it, which is exciting. But La Casa de Amistad, as a youth and community center, was founded in 1973, and in the mid-'80s, purchased what used to be an old Polish department store that was all of 8,000 square feet, and we were there for a little over 3 decades. As time went on, in 2019, we looked to purchase a new facility, and June 21 of 2021, we moved into our new building. We went from 8,000 square feet to 41,000 square feet, so 5x growth, which also meant the growth in expenses were going to follow. I also, right around that time in September, transitioned to being the executive director of the organization. So as you kind of get given the folder, as you're going through the expenses, one of the things that I noticed is we were averaging about $2,500 a month in electricity expenses for a total of around $30,000 that we were paying on 2 separate meters to AEP. My immediate reaction was, we've got to save some money. How do we do it? Let's go solar. I made the comment to someone that said, you really should be talking to Pat Regan from Crossroads Solar. He's a solar panel manufacturer in town. This was October at this point. So I give Pat a tour. We walk through our facility, and he goes, Juan, so what are you looking to do? I'm like, well, Pat, I'm looking to go solar. And Pat's immediate response was, first steps, begin turning off the lights. So immediately, it wasn't this, I looked at it at a surface level, let's go solar, let's build the system, let's have some savings. Pat was saying, at first, what you need to do as an entity, as a team, as an organization, is evaluate your behavior and how much electricity you're using and where you could begin the savings early on. So that was even taking it a few steps backwards, and instead of saying, well, we spend this much, this is how much we need in solar, Pat saying, well, do you need to be spending that much? And then what can you do differently to lessen the electricity usage? We can go next, Alex. And so in December, we heard about a program that would potentially be rolling out known as EASSI, Energy Assistance Solar Savings Initiative, through the city of South Bend. And we applied in January, and thankfully got accepted into the program. Again, initially, from our vantage point as an organization, we wanted to go solar. That's what we thought was priority number 1 for the organization, new projects, have some savings. But with the EASSI program, what we ended up finding was that there was an energy assessment that came with the program. One, we saw it as a requirement, something we had to do that would ideally give us the thumbs up to go solar. But what we had no idea about is that this packet was a guide and roadmap for the organization long term, and will allow us to have a whole overview of where the organization is, where we should be prioritizing investments, how the board can get involved. And yes, maybe we got the thumbs up to go solar, but what are all the other things we also could be doing? From that assessment came that we needed a new roof, and it didn't have much life expectancy left. So until the new roof got replaced, we weren't even prepared to go solar. 2, we were talking about behavior earlier with Pat Regan. All of our lights in our building practically were fluorescent. So we're saying, what can we do to potentially go LED? And particularly in the hallways, how can we say when someone's not in the hallway or not utilizing the lights, how can we add in occupancy sensors? So when you walk in the hallway, it's on. If you're not there, it's entirely off. The other thing that it's out of sight, it's out of mind are our HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning units that are on our roof. We've got 9 units, all of which are well over 15 years old, very inefficient and using a ton of energy into the facility. And so we kind of got those broken down by priority and by size and what it would take to replace those units and to get more efficient ones, which would also expense out less electricity. And then lastly, it was, and you could potentially go solar, assuming you at least started with the roof. But we wanted a lot more than that. Can we go next? So as we got this assessment, one of the things that I'll say is that, in my opinion, what led to the success of La Casa de Amistad's program and moved to make a significant investment to go solar was working with our board of directors. So as the new executive director, I set my goals for the organization, and my long-term goals were really sustainability from a financial standpoint, but also a structural standpoint. From the moment we applied to EASSI, we immediately updated our board, said, hey, we're looking to be a part of this cohort. Here's potentially what it's going to do. And every bit of information that we get, we're going to share with you. As we got our energy assessment given to us, I sent the packet over. When they went to present the energy assessment packet to myself and folks from the city, we invited our finance committee and our executive committee. We almost required them to go, and then invited the rest of the board to also attend. We had a major donor who was willing to make a contribution to solar if we went there. We invited him to attend. And truly what it ended up being was, it wasn't just me saying we should go solar, here's what it's going to cost us, but rather we had the experts in the room to say, also, here's the condition of your building. And here's what you got to think about long term as you begin to do your budgeting and your finances in October, November, or whenever that cycle comes in for you. The next piece of it was, some board members were quite frankly just saying, what's the return of investment here? Is it worth the expense? So we were talking about a roof that was $225,000. We were talking about a solar array that was over $180,000. So we're $400 and some thousand in if we move forward. Does it financially make sense? For us, the new roof wasn't a if thing, it was a when thing. Because the roof, regardless of solar, was going to have to happen. So how did we objectively say, let's look at this assessment, and of the assessment, what are things we have to do regardless, because it's simply deferred maintenance? Okay, so the roof was one. We're like, okay, that was a given. Let's not put that pressure on the project. But what's the expense of solar? $186,000. If our project was going to cost us $186,000, but we would save $30,000 a year on the solar array, call it 6 years, it would pay itself back, with the solar panels having about a 25-year warranty and the inverters themselves having an 8-year warranty before we had to turn around and then address some deferred maintenance. And then the next piece was, okay, it seems the numbers will eventually make sense and we'll level ourselves out. But could we afford to do it right now? And the deadline of net metering that was going on in 2022. And so that's where the conversation really began to go from our board of directors standpoint. We can go next, Alex. And so as we started looking at this big ticket number of $400,000, the EASSI program was going to put up some dollars that we were hoping to count on if we had a qualified program. We had a donor who stepped up and said, we'll give you $40,000 to move forward. And really, the way some of these came together was quite literally sending that energy assessment to donors. It was donors that were already aware. We were also updating on our email list what was going on, just having conversations casually about what we were looking to do. And that way, it's not, again, just me saying it's something that Juan wants, but rather organizationally, here's the capacity to do it, and here's why it makes sense. We ended up having about an $80,000 shortfall for the funding. So we started looking at, okay, what it would take for us to fill in the gap. Could we afford it cash? Or do we talk to our partners? IFF, who's a partner in the program, was looking at some financing options. So we considered IFF's financing options, which were pretty great terms. And then Notre Dame Federal Credit Union happens to be our credit union who we bank with. And so we naturally went over to them and said, if we needed this, what would that look like? They were also offering a competitive interest rate. And then we said, well, let's go outside of the scope of our network and talk to another credit union. So we talked to TCU, Teachers Credit Union, about financing options, and they were also open to the conversation. Ultimately, what ended up happening as we were having these conversations is we just kept fundraising along the way, because ideally we didn't want to take on any additional debt on behalf of the organization or for this project. Long story short, we ended up falling about $20,000 short of the fundraising that we were looking to get, but we had already budgeted to spend $50,000 on our roof, which we hadn't accounted for yet. So the $50,000 that were budgeted, we took $20,000 of that, put it into the project, and we're able to fully fundraise the roof and the solar, and then that's kind of where the snowball begins. We can go next, Alex. And so I've got 2 slides that are pretty extensive here, and I won't read every single date, but I definitely want you all to take a look at our timeline. And so this is slide 1, and we'll eventually go into slide 2. But just in terms of, I felt it was important to highlight this just so that folks can get a high level overview of how long this took and just about what steps look like. So as I mentioned, in October is when we first started the conversations. In December, we heard about EASSI. By January, February, we were transitioning into the program. Within the month, we had the assessments. A month later, we were working with our board and looking forward for a vote. And then by the time we got that, we were looking to sign a contract. But from the beginning of EASSI to where we signed a contract on a project, we were about 4 months in, where that moved pretty quickly. So we were feeling pretty confident about our strides there. Things to consider as you go about the program is that for us, it seemed pretty straightforward. Change the roof, pay for it, sign a contract and go solar, pay for it, we're done. What ended up happening is that everything that possibly, in my opinion, could have gone wrong, went wrong all along the way. Our building was an older facility and it was connected to an older transformer. So AEP said, you guys have got to replace the transformer. And we're like, okay, great. Like, when are you guys going to get that done? They're like, well, whenever you pay us a check to change our transformer. And so that expense fell on the center. So there was an additional expense. And also an unexpected, timeline hold just because of supply chain issues. Can we go next, Alex? And so we ultimately signed off on saying yes to the transformer. In August, our roof got replaced. In between September and October is when beginning to end for the solar grids to go above our roof. So now you can imagine in October, everything's on our roof. We've got overview, drone photos of it, and nothing was operating for 4 months. And so once you actually have solar on your roof, you've got to schedule a shut off with the utility company so they can actually wire the solar grid to your electrical box. And then you've got to get everything inspected. And then once everything is inspected, depending on your system, and if you're selling back to the grid, they've got to swap out your meters. And there's an approval process for that and an inspection for all of those things. And depending on if you have 1 meter or 2, they're entirely different timelines. And we have 2 meters, one that's for our HVAC, another one that was for the rest of the facility. So you can see at the very bottom, some of the arrows. First it was the roof, then it was the solar, then the transformer, and so forth. So I put that psi there because we went from January up until literally March 15th, which I believe was last Thursday, and our solar finally got turned on. And so, which is great. So we can go next slide, Alex. And so here it is, a couple of overview photos of our solar grid. We've got two roofs. The one on your left-hand side with the flagpole is above our youth wing, and then the one on the right-hand side is above the rest of the community center. It's a total of 280 panels, 106 kW system, and they are now both fully operating as of about 7 days ago or so. So we're excited to have it jamming. We're looking forward to seeing not the March bill in April, but rather the April bill in May. So we can see that full month comparison. We did hit the deadline for net metering, so we're able to sell back at the utility company at more of a retail rate as opposed to a wholesale rate, and we're locked in for that for 10 years. But there were a lot of ups and downs. There were a lot of hiccups. There were a lot of you don't know what you don't know. And so, I really appreciated just this opportunity to share with you all kind of what it took, some of the hiccups we went through, how we engaged our board. Ultimately, this led to a facilities committee with our board of directors so that they can also advocate at the board level to make decisions. And we're continuing the push to become more of a sustainable organization, environmentally friendly. We're looking at our HVAC. We installed occupancy sensors in our hallways. We're looking to do LED lighting all across the facility and so forth. We get that's going to take some time. But the EASSI program was really this first domino and ripple effect that is continuing La Casa's push to be a nonprofit example, and environmental steward here in our city and hopefully in our region. So thank you all for the time. We'll transition over to Life Treatment Centers, and then we'll do Q&A later. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Juan. Life Treatment Centers is up. I'll hand it off to Amy and Mike.
All right, I'll go first. Juan, you're kind of a hard one to follow. We should have probably had Life Treatment Centers go first. Give a lot of good information. But no, I mean, to start off, our building is almost 100 years old. Although we've been, and Mike can kind of correct me, he's been here a little longer, double my time, but still we've been here a long time together. We've been in this building for about 22 years, but the building is about 100 years old. So as you can, would know that we have a lot of outdated things. We've kept up on a lot of it, but when we first heard about this project, we were going through some transitions of a new CEO, and we were missing a lot of staff that we previously had. So it kind of sounded like way too big of a project to even do or start on. But Alex kept reaching out. They were very helpful, very persistent on helping us. And then we, so kind of some project ideas before receiving that energy assessment. Our windows are, I'm not sure if they're, Mike, do you know how old the windows are?
I would guess that the windows were put in, the building was remodeled. It used to be a hotel. It was remodeled in the mid 90s. So the windows are probably.
Oh yeah, they're 24 years old on here.
Yeah.
We have a lot of issues with them. We do the best we can. We kind of wrap them up or put things there. But we have a lot of windows. I can't remember the total amount. That was one of our things. Outdated lighting. At first it wasn't top priority because it was expensive without the funding, and a new roof was another option. You can go to the next page, please. So not being too sure, what would be top priority, this energy assessment definitely helped. As you can see from that, we had some ideas: window replacement, energy use, the solar panels, HVAC balancing, update to the LED light bulbs throughout the building and the whole site, weather stripping, occupancy sensors, which now that I'm hearing Juan talk about that might really help us because we have a large building, a lot of different rooms, people in and out. We are a 24/7 residential facility, so that would definitely be something to put on our list. And then we have the low flow toilet fixtures and other plumbing fixtures. You can go to the next page. I don't know if I'm skipping ahead here, but so pretty much when we heard about this, like I said, it was kind of intimidating that it seemed like such a big project. We're not sure if it's worth it, if we need to do it now, if it's worth doing it now. But again, we kept meeting, we came to the meetings. It seemed exciting, kind of. That's what, I feel like you guys made it exciting to think about and to think that it was actually possible. We ended up going with the LED lighting. One thing is we got with our board. Let me see where I'm at here. I'm kind of skipping ahead, but one thing is, we did try to keep our board involved in it. But at first, we weren't too sure, and they kind of picked up on that. So if you're not too sure or act like, you kind of want to do your research and get excited about it and then bring that energy to your board or to your funding, because if you're unsure, they're going to be unsure. So the project kind of starts, we got a quote, we did that. I'm going to jump ahead to go back to the board. Well, we kind of got some quotes and we're talking about it. And the first board meeting we had, they're like, well, you don't sound like, is this something you really need to do? Think about it, come back next board meeting, and then we'll talk about it. So we kind of talked about it more. We looked into it. Mike did some work. We got some of the savings, I think, from the EASSI project of what this could actually save us if we did the LED lighting throughout the whole building. And we started to get excited. We started to see long-term savings. We started to see that it wouldn't take too long to pay back our investments. And then we even, the first quote we got was maybe 40,000, and we got with the LED lighting, the company, and we said, this is kind of what we're working with. What can we do for this amount? And I think we got a few quotes. Mike can talk to that. And they actually worked with us, and we got a lower quote in order to do the whole building. So the project starts. They don't have the best timeline, but we coordinated with the installer, Titan LED. The LED advisors came out to install everything. This whole project only took us about 2 months to complete, from quote to installation. They actually went above and beyond. They replaced additional fixtures at no charge. I think our whole building got replaced to LED lighting. It brightened up all the rooms. It kind of just gave it a more positive feeling in the building versus, you know, the dim, low lights, and they worked really quickly. Mike, do you want to chime in at all before I go into?
Sure. With the lighting, there was two options. The first option, of course, was an expensive option, and that was replacing all the fixtures in the building. And we have a lot of fluorescent fixtures in the building. And I talked to the, I presented it to we presented it to the board, and a little skeptical of how long it was going to take to actually recoup that high amount of savings and over the timeline that they were estimating. And so I went back to the company and said, hey, this is our budget. Can we work something else? Is there other options? And then they were willing to say, hey, since you're nonprofit, we're going to give you a little more of a discount. And on top of that, we don't have to replace all the fixtures. We can actually just retrofit your existing fixtures and save you a ton of money. So that cut the estimate like in half by just retrofitting the fixtures that we had and disposing of the ballasts and the fluorescent tubes and stuff. So we represented that to the board and looked at the savings timeline. Went from I right offhand, I can't remember, but it was from 20 years down to 2 years, and that includes we talked about what we're going to get with the grant and the savings. It was like a no-brainer at that point, because I also put out there that the fluorescent light fixtures or the bulbs were no longer going to be available, in the near future. They're, so this is something that we either do now while we're going to get this money for the grant to do it, or it's going to cost us a lot more down the road when we decide if we're going to be forced to have to do it. Kind of like the roofing scenario where, it's got to be done. So when do you want to do it? So the option was to do it while we're going to get the money in. So
to go to that with the project impact, our accountant actually was just showing us in February, we saved $266. In March, we saved $423. January is when we implemented the lighting. So the two months after that. So we kind of are projecting, $6,000 to $8,000, possibly more when we're running, in the summer when we're running our HVAC and stuff. So $6,000 to $8,000 annually. We are planning to try to put that back into our frontline workers, our residential techs, our counselors here. Being a nonprofit, we never have paid the best, but we know we need to compete and we want to be able to do that. And this is kind of part of our, $8,000 a year that we're going to present to our board to be able to pay more going forward. I believe you can go to the next one. So again, I kind of already went into this, we presented the saving details expected by changing to LED to our board. They kind of put it in our hands, but when we weren't very, when we didn't seem too sure of it, they weren't sure. So we did more research, presented it second time, along with the facts such as the funding would cover half. Our lighting fixtures were becoming outdated and expensive to maintain, as Mike mentioned. To address the financing, we did talk to the board. We were looking for financing for the second half, and then again, just the benefit and the savings on the monthly electric bill. We did end up getting financing for the second half through the city, through another grant for operations, which paid for that. And so that worked out really well. You can go to the next one. So our advice, recommendations, use all the resources they send you. I mean, they give you more than enough. I feel like you guys were, even if we kind of fell off and you didn't hear from us for a while, I feel like they definitely did a good job at, hey, where are you? This is a great project. Do you want to do this? And and then, get excited about the project. We've been in a really kind of hectic time. It's been busy. There's a lot of us doing many jobs, but we're trying to stay on top of it. Let the contractors know your budget. I mean, this is kind of just my advice. I don't know if it's the right way, but, at first it was more than double what we had even available to spend on this project. And once we knew, like Mike said, they're like, okay, well, we can do it this way. Keep your board in the know kind of from the start to the finish. Talk the project up if you truly want it approved. If you're unsure when you present, like I said, then they're going to be unsure. And look for those other resources. Like Juan said, that they had the fundraisers, this and that. People seem to, especially with making it more energy efficient and better for people, seem to want to help. That might be all I have on that. I don't know if there's questions or anything you want us to add.
Thank you, Amy and Mike. We'll open it up for questions.
Hi, this is Shelley from Corvilla. I was just wondering, Alexandro, when you did the solar, did you get multiple quotes?
Are you speaking regarding La Casa
Yes.
project?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I was reading your name on the bottom. Sorry.
So we did help La Casa with the collecting some of the quotes, and I think they also collected a couple quotes themselves just internally. Juan, if you wanted to speak to quote collection process.
Yeah, hi there, Juan speaking here. Yeah, we collected multiple quotes. We actually, for 2 or 3 of the companies, we collected 2 quotes from each company because they had different panels that you could utilize. Some that were made overseas, and then there were the panels that were made here locally. Some that were bifacial and could potentially produce an additional 10%. And I want to say all in, we had about 7 or 8 different scenarios of quotes that we showed. And thanks to the city and the EASSI program, they put together a matrix where we could look at column by column. I probably should have showed that, but a matrix that showed us every single quote, the pricing, the size of the grid. Some of them were slightly different than others, what kind of panel, what the warranty was, what the inverter warranty was. And so we took all of those things into account. Not that we picked the lowest quote, but we picked the one that made most sense for us. We also wanted to be very intentional about spending our money here locally. So we did go with Crossroads Solar and Pat Regan. They're here in South Bend. Wellspring is within the region. And so those 2 things for us meant a lot in terms of how we invested our dollars. The roofing company that we worked with is a minority owned roofing company, so we were intentional about working with them as well. So yes, to answer your question, we got multiple quotes, probably 7 or 8 to be exact, with different scenarios all across the board.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for both La Casa and Life Treatment Center. First of all, Juan, for you, it sounds as if you did some sort of campaign. Would you have called it a full campaign to your whole donor base, including literature, or did you work just with your major donors?
I wish I could call it a campaign. I think we talked about it as a board. Our board was proactive in connecting us to people that they knew, and they were talking about it. And then what we ended up doing is in our email list and newsletter, we mentioned that we wanted to go solar, and we invited people to learn more. And so like 2 or 3 people came to the table. Truth be told, we only had, let's see, 1, 2, 5 gifts that came in to pay for the whole thing. So we didn't really tap into our major donors. We actually, of the money, $315,000 of it was from 2 donors that had never given us money before.
Wow.
One was a friend of a board president, and she was talking to the family, and they said, well, we got a foundation and we actually wanted to make an impact on solar, and they interviewed us. So we didn't even solicit them. They came to us. The other one was a foundation that choosing to remain anonymous, but they asked all the right questions. We sent them the assessment. They asked what the gap was. I did a terrible job as a fundraiser of under asking, and they did a good job as a philanthropist filling in the gap. And so we requested 150,000, and they said, "Well, what do you need?" And there was a $125,000 gap, so they said, "We're going to send you a check for 275,000." So again, didn't do a good job on the fundraising side of our end, but we did do a good job of being clear and objective, and allowing everyone to be at the table and get to hear the whole story, know the facts, and understand where we're looking to go. Because it also wasn't a one and done. It's not a one and done deal for us. We've got a 3-5 year plan for our entire facility moving forward. So to answer your question, we didn't run a formal campaign. We didn't have a ton of literature. We used the energy assessment in our quotes and shared them like it was nobody's business.
So in this phase one, what was the gross cost of the campaign of the work?
$415,000.
Okay, and I guess the same question then for life treatment. I think yours was probably a smaller project. What would the gross expense for your effort have been?
Well, we received a number of quotes from the company. Originally, it would have been, right offhand, I'm not sure, but the company had come out about 5 years ago originally and went through our building. So they already had our documentation. So when this grant came up, we decided that this would be a great project because the estimate was already out there, and we just needed to reach back out to the company and talk to them again. And I believe the original quote was in the range of $40,000 to actually replace all the, I shouldn't say all the fixtures, but probably about 60% of the light fixtures in the building. And that's when I went back and said, hey, we can't afford this for we're only saving so much for 60% of the building. What can you do? And that's when he came back with the idea of, hey, we don't have to actually replace the fixtures, but the warranty will be, similar, but not quite as good because they're not new fixtures, they're parts. But we can retrofit them, and we can do probably like 80% of the building at, half the price. And then when they came out here and started doing the fixtures, they're like, you know what, while we're out here, we're just going to do all the fixtures. So we ended up getting, probably about 95% of the fixtures completed for was it around 20,000, I think. So.
Yeah, like 24, 25,000, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the 25,000 was the total cost of the
right.
Program. Okay. Did you pay for that out of operations, or did you have some board help to cover that?
We ended up having another funding source, like a grant.
Okay.
That was
right.
for like operations, maintenance of the building, and they allowed us to use that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Juan, what company did you have do your roof then, and what kind of roof was it? A coating put on, or did they actually put new rubber membrane in that on?
Yeah, so it was reliable roofing, and they put a new membrane and thicker insulation across the top. Okay. So also thinking about just the HVAC and then insulating more of just our heating and cooling in the facility, that was an intentional push to get thicker insulation across the top. Yep.
Yeah, we looked at our HVAC units because if we knew this program about 3 years ago, because most of we have 9 units on our roof also, and they were like 25 years old almost, and slowly they were dying out, and the type of Freon that was used couldn't be used anymore, so they had to, everything had to be replaced. And this would have been a great program then to help us replace all our HVAC units that we needed to replace. So.
Yeah, that's definitely our. I hope it's done in 3 years, but maybe as far as 5-year plan to replace all of our units. We've got one that's like 30 years old that
Yeah.
we managed to keep alive somehow. But we're trying to get it upgraded to a much more efficient unit. But they are expensive pieces of technology.
I love all this talk about solar and energy efficiency. I feel like we have some new experts in the room, so I'll probably have to call Juan for some solar advice and Mike and Amy for some LED advice as well. Getting back to Shelly's your question on the solar quotes, yeah, we helped all of the EASSI orgs that were considering solar with collecting quotes and reviewing those quotes. So we did provide like a matrix to compare and contrast the different solar options. Some of that was looking at the types of solar panels. Some of the nonprofits were interested in where they were made, so were they made locally, were they made abroad, the design of the solar system, how big the solar system was, the size of the solar system, and what that related to in terms of the costs. So we'd be happy to provide those solar quotes for you and for all folks that are part of the EASSI program this year. While folks are perhaps thinking about some other questions, I did want to touch on some next steps in the program, and then we can use the remainder of our time for any additional questions that might pop up in the meantime. So Donna sent this really cool quiz about all the different buildings that she did the on-site energy assessment for this past week, or last week, I should say. So definitely check out that quiz and get to learn about all of the folks that are part of this year's cohorts, their building. Some important dates. So as I touched on a little bit in one of our previous slides, the week of April 10th is when we should have the assessment report complete and sent to you. And then the week of May 1st is when we'll review that assessment report with you and get your thoughts on projects you want to pursue, and then proceed with looking into those projects and collecting quotes and sharing those with us. And we do have this Calendly link where you could sign up to schedule your review of that assessment report. And it's still a little bit early out, but something I wanted to keep on your radar. If it might take some time to schedule something out with your board members or your facilities point people or important stakeholders that you want to be part of that meeting and to ask any questions they might have. And then just looking out into the horizon, we do have a future webinar coming up. This will be in April 18th, and that's the Utility Incentives and Rebates webinar. And this will be with AEP, or Indiana Michigan Power, and they'll be specifically talking about electric rebates and incentives. And then also wanted to highlight that we have a virtual presentation today with Chris Castro, who's part of the Department of Energy. He's the chief of staff there, and he's going to be talking about one of the largest climate investments that our federal government has made thus far in our country, which is through the infrastructure bill, as well as the Inflation Reduction Act, and what that means for South Bend and how we can benefit from that. And those are definitely things that we'll continue to highlight as those incentives are and the guidelines for those incentives become available. And so we want to make sure that not only do you benefit from the incentives available through the EASSI program, the incentives available through utility rebates, but also the incentives that are available from the federal government, so that you can stack those incentives all together, cut down on the total cost of your projects, and have additional savings and a shorter return on investment. So that virtual presentation is at 3:30 p.m. We will record that webinar, and we'll be happy to share that with you as well. It's a virtual webinar using Microsoft Teams, the same platform that we're using right here. And the virtual link to that is right here in the graphic here at the bottom, which is southbend9.gov/SB 2045 sustainability. So it's a great opportunity to hear from a representative from the Department of Energy about the opportunities that are available through the federal government. And I will now provide another slide for opportunities for questions here. I do have one question for Mike and Amy. I believe you were also looking into like the utility rebates for lighting. Was that something that you also applied for through your lighting project?
That me. I think we still have to look. You're muted, Mike.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
Okay.
we're still looking into filing for the rebates and applying for them. Yeah, we haven't done that yet.
Okay, cool. Well, that's great. Yeah, this is definitely something to take advantage of for LED lighting through Indiana Michigan Power. They provide a rebate. I believe it's per fixture or per bulb. So that's a opportunity to get some additional monies to just reduce the cost of your total project. Evie has also put in the chat the virtual webinar that we're hosting later today at 3:30. Where you can copy that link, and if you have some time at 3:30 is when the webinar will start, so be sure to check that out. But we will also share the recording as well, and we are also recording this webinar that we can also share with you, and you can refer back to it or share with others within your organization. Other questions folks might have? Barbara or Evie, any questions that you might have for Juan or Amy or Mike?
No, just want to say thanks, everybody, and thanks for to Amy and Juan. Sorry, I was coming off camera. For being inaugural participants. We really appreciate you joining the program and sharing your wisdom with this year's cohort. Thanks so much.
Yeah, I'll echo that. Oops.
Hey, Juan, I do have a question. What was your square footage of your roof?
That's a great question. I don't know. I should, but I have no idea. I can look that up and send it to you though. It should be on our quote. I'll buzz it to you.
You can just run up there real quick and check it out, and we'll wait.
Yeah, I'll get back to you on that though. I'll share that happily. I will say, just as a comment, as someone who was on the EASSI cohort, one of the things that I found very beneficial, even to right now, are working with our cohort members and just soundboarding on what's going on, how it's going, who you're talking to. Maybe it's another contractor or a secondary quote that of someone you didn't think about. Those things, just you're better together as a cohort to work collectively. And not that I'm putting more work on Evie, Alex, and Barbara, but lean on them. They're sharp. They're helpful. They'll be good to you and ask questions that maybe you're not thinking about. Provide perspectives. Give you answers. And so I will say that's what allowed us to make our best educated decision moving forward. And I mean, yeah, as Barbara said, they're there to help, and they certainly do without any qualm. So I would say lean on them. They're very helpful for those moments of uncertainty. And invite them, try to get on the calendar to be with the board to clarify it. So lean on the experts in the room because we can't be experts in everything, but we can be really good at some things. So I will just say, just as a word of advice, they're good people and really helpful. And it's certainly, they were some of our biggest advocates that allowed us to move forward on our project.
All right, cool. Well, thank you, Juan. I appreciate the the feedback you've provided to us. Any other questions? Are there folks leaning on solar or lighting or that are part of our new cohort here that would like to ask any questions for Juan or Amy or Mike? All right. Well, if there are questions that pop up, we'd be happy to connect you with Juan or Amy or Mike, whether that's for lighting or solar or thinking about how to present a project to your board or your internal stakeholders, please feel free to also reach out to me with any questions. We're always there to help you along the way. We want to make sure your projects are successful. I'm going to wrap up our webinar and close our recording, but feel free to reach out at any time for any questions on EASSI, and we hope to see you at the webinar today at 3:30 to hear more about federal opportunities that might be related to investments in your building or facility. All right. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next webinar.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Have a good day.
Thank you.